explain how local property taxpayers in public school districts across the state end up subsidizing charter schools. This year, the state will appropriate about $9 billion for K through 12 education. State education funds are then allocated to public school districts based on a complex formula. Out of the money which goes to each district, a deduction is made from the school district's annual allocation to give a chunk of that public school district's money to the charter schools. This creates a loss of anticipated state revenue for public schools. When state revenue for public schools decreases because of money which goes to for-profit charters, public school officials must make up the difference by asking local property taxpayers for more money. On the average, districts pay nearly twice as much for charter schools as they receive from the state on a per-pupil basis. At least 40% of the money which goes to charter schools comes from local property tax revenues because local school districts have to make up the difference when the state deducts money from their charters, for charters. This is how private charter schools, with the help of the legislature, are bleeding common public schools and forcing the diversion of millage voted to support public schools to cover the loss of tax revenue which goes to support private charters. An analysis of some of the larger school districts in the state shows staggering losses of public money to private for-profit charters. This year, the Columbus City School District will lose $150 million to charters. Dayton will lose $55 million. Toledo, $73 million. Cincinnati, $51 million. Akron, $27 million. Cleveland, $132 million. Youngstown, $20 million. And Canton, $8.6 million. Innovation Ohio's educational policy fellow, Steve Dyer, has created a database which calculates the millage which each school district gives to charter schools. The amount varies from 0.03 mils to 45.24 mils. Charter schools are siphoning off public tax resources from local taxpayers who may intend that their property tax dollars go only for public schools, but who ultimately end up subsidizing charter schools through existing or increased millage. Under the current funding schemes for education in Ohio, it appears that public education is getting more money. But once you deduct the amount received by charter schools, public educational funding has actually declined. And if taxpayers are tapped out, cuts must be made in public school district programs to ensure that private for-profit charters have money to operate. This is outrageous. William Phillips, who's here, has pointed out that charter school funds are taken from school budgets by way of state deductions. In Ohio, private organizations set up by private charter schools under a private charter school board, which can contract with a private for-profit management company, spend funds privately, employ personnel privately, secretly hire relatives, and engage in private rental contracts inviting conflicts of interest. And, thanks to an Ohio Supreme Court ruling, charter schools can claim as their private property that which was purchased with public funds. The Ohio Revised Code falsely defines charters as public schools, but the National Labor Relations Board has ruled that Ohio's charters are private for purposes of labor law. My question is, since truly everything is private about charter schools, shouldn't their funding be private and not public? This Ohio private charter school system is a legal boondoggle supported by billions in public funds with little transparency, accountability, or government oversight. Variations in school funding district by district, have resulted in funding caps. Charter schools don't have caps. They operate as school districts, but are independent of school districts. They take funds from school districts, but they don't have a tax base or a geographical base. Their base is not in the community. It's in the Ohio legislature, which deceptively labels charters as community schools, while private charter schools contribute through their sponsors millions of dollars to political campaigns in this state. This corruption of the Ohio legislature by charter schools is a scandal of massive proportions, dwarfing Crofters, Coingate, the savings and loan debacle, because it represents a destructive undermining of the public education of Ohio children. Charters are a law unto themselves. They're exempt from over 150 state laws and regulations, including those requiring transparency, accountability, and adherence to conflict of interest laws. Some charter sponsors and for-profit management companies are not subject to state sunshine laws or open record requirements that cover almost every other entity which receives public funds. Could there be another system funded by state government which is more susceptible to waste, fraud, abuse, and profiteering? How could such a secret black box system, which now commands over $1 billion annually in state and public school district educational funds, not be muddled in serious corruption?